My son-in-law said, "Your daughter is my wife now. She'll listen to me, not you." I just smiled. Of course, dear. The next day, she found out he said that to me. His things immediately flew out the window. My name is Margaret, and for 63 years, I believed I understood how the world worked. I raised my daughter Emily in Portland, taught her to be strong, independent, and kind. When she married Kevin 5 years ago, I thought I'd done everything right. He seemed charming, attentive, and successful in his accounting firm. Wasn't that what every mother wanted for her daughter? The first cracks appeared so subtly I almost missed them. It started with small comments at family dinners. "Emily, you're wearing that," Kevin would say with a laugh that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I thought we agreed you'd ask me before buying new clothes." Emily would blush, apologize, and I'd feel something cold settle in my stomach. But I said nothing. Modern marriages were different, weren't they? Then came the isolation. Emily stopped calling as frequently. Our weekly coffee dates became monthly, then occasional. "Kevin thinks I should focus more on our home," she explained one afternoon, her eyes not meeting mine. "He says you and I talk too much, and it makes him feel left out." I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and said I understood. What else could a mother do? Push too hard, and I'd lose her completely. The phone calls that did come were strained. Emily's voice had changed, quieter, more hesitant, always checking the time. "Is he monitoring you?" I asked once, trying to sound casual. She laughed it off, but the laugh was hollow. I started noticing bruises. "I'm so clumsy lately," she'd say, pulling down her sleeves. The grandmother in me raged, but I knew I had to be careful. Men like Kevin didn't respond well to direct confrontation. I began documenting everything. Every canceled visit, every strange excuse, every time Emily flinched when her phone rang. I wasn't sure what I was preparing for, but some instinct told me I'd need evidence eventually. My friends thought I was paranoid. "You're overthinking this, Margaret," they'd say. "Young couples need space." But I'd seen enough in my 6 decades to recognize a predator when I saw one. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon. Kevin showed up at my house unannounced, something he'd never done before. Emily wasn't with him. He stood in my doorway, blocking the light, his smile sharp as broken glass. "Margaret, we need to talk," he said, walking in without invitation. He settled into my late husband's favorite chair, a calculated move that made my blood boil. "About Emily." I poured him coffee with steady hands, though my heart was hammering. "What about her?" He leaned back, lord of the manor in my own home. "She's having some confused ideas lately, thinking she should have her own bank account, make decisions without consulting me. I think you've been putting thoughts in her head." "Have I?" I kept my voice mild, interested. Kevin's mask slipped for just a moment. His eyes went cold, reptilian. Then the charm snapped back into place. "Your daughter is my wife now, Margaret. She listens to me, not you. That's how marriage works. I need you to understand your place in our family." There it was. The truth he'd been hiding for 5 years. I smiled. A grandmother's gentle, understanding smile. "Of course, dear. Whatever you think is best." He seemed satisfied, even smug. He finished his coffee and left, probably convinced he'd put me in my place. What he didn't know was that my hand was already reaching for my phone before his car pulled out of the driveway. I called Emily immediately. "Sweetheart, Kevin just left. He came to tell me that you're his wife now and should listen to him, not me." The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard it. A sound I hadn't heard from my daughter in years. A sharp intake of breath, followed by something that sounded like hope mixed with rage. "He said that to you?" Her voice was steel wrapped in ice. "To my mother?" "Yes, darling, he did." What happened next would become family legend. Within an hour, Kevin's clothes were flying out of their second-floor bedroom window, landing in the rhododendrons I'd helped Emily plant when they first bought the house. The neighbors called the police, concerned about the commotion. By the time they arrived, my daughter was standing in her doorway, Kevin's laptop in her hands, calmly explaining that she was removing her soon-to-be ex-husband's belongings from her property. But that was just the beginning. What I didn't know then was that Kevin wouldn't accept defeat so easily. And what Kevin didn't know was that he'd just declared war on the wrong grandmother. The call came at 11 that night. Emily's voice was shaking, but underneath the tremor, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. Determination. "Mom, he's threatening to take everything. The house, the car, even my retirement account. He says he has lawyers who'll make sure I end up with nothing." She paused, and I heard her breathing, trying to steady herself. "I'm scared, but I'm also so angry I can barely see straight. How did I let this happen?" I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd fed her as a child, helped her with homework, taught her to stand up for herself. Where had that girl gone? And more importantly, how could I help her find herself again? "Emily, listen to me carefully. Do you want to fight this, or do you want to just get away?" I needed to know how deep we were going. "I want to destroy him, Mom." Her voice was cold now, focused. "He controlled me for 5 years, made me quit my job, cut me off from my friends, made me think I was crazy for wanting my own money. And then he had the audacity to come to your house and treat you like you were nothing. No, I'm done being scared." I smiled in the darkness of my kitchen. There she was, my daughter, my fighter. "Then we need to be smart about this. Emotion won't win this war. Evidence will. Tell me everything, and I mean everything, about your finances, your marriage, and Kevin's business." What Emily told me over the next 2 hours made my blood run cold. Kevin hadn't just isolated her. He'd systematically taken control of every aspect of her life. The house was in his name only, though Emily's inheritance from her father had paid the down payment. Her car was registered to him. He'd convinced her to close her personal bank account for simplicity. He monitored her phone, her email, her movements. But Emily had been smarter than he'd realized. She'd been documenting things too. Screenshots of his text messages, recordings of his rages, photos of the bruises. She'd been preparing to leave for months, but didn't know how to start. My phone call about his visit had been the permission she needed. "I have something else, Mom," she said quietly. "Kevin's been embezzling from his firm. I found the spreadsheets on his computer last year. That's when the control really got bad. I think he was afraid I'd expose him." Now we were talking. Financial crimes meant federal involvement, real consequences. But it also meant Kevin was desperate, and desperate men were dangerous. "Don't touch that computer," I said sharply. "In fact, don't touch anything else. Tomorrow morning, you're going to do exactly what I tell you." I spent the rest of the night planning. Sleep was for people who weren't protecting their daughters. By dawn, I had a strategy. First, Emily needed protection, legal and physical. I called my neighbor Patricia, whose daughter was a family law attorney in Seattle. By 7 a.m., we had an emergency consultation scheduled for that afternoon. Patricia also knew people, she said cryptically, people who could help with difficult situations. Second, we needed documentation of everything Kevin had done, not just Emily's evidence, but official records. Bank statements, property records, employment history. I'd been a paralegal for 30 years before retiring. I knew how to build a case. Third, and most important, we needed to move fast. Kevin would regroup after yesterday's humiliation. Men like him always did. He'd come back with lawyers, threats, and manipulation. We had maybe 48 hours before he mounted a counterattack. I called Emily back at 8. Pack a bag with essentials, documents, medication, the laptop with his financial records, anything he might try to destroy. Can you get to my house without him knowing? He's been calling nonstop, but I haven't answered. He doesn't know where I am. I'm at a hotel using cash. He can't track my credit cards here. Smart girl. Good. Stay there today, but keep your phone off, except to call me every 2 hours. I need to know you're safe. Tomorrow we meet with the attorney, and we start taking your life back. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen watching the sunrise paint my rhododendrons gold. Kevin thought he'd won when he intimidated me yesterday. He thought a 63-year-old grandmother would be too scared or too weak to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. And if he thought throwing Emily out of her own home was the end of this story, he was about to discover it was just the opening move. I had 5 years of rage to work with, and I was just getting started. The attorney's office sat on the 14th floor of a downtown Seattle building, all glass and steel reflecting the gray afternoon sky. Emily sat beside me in the waiting room, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. She'd changed since yesterday, pulled her hair back severely, wore clothes I recognized from her college days, before Kevin. She was trying to remember who she'd been. Jennifer Morrison turned out to be exactly what we needed. Sharp, experienced, and angry on Emily's behalf within the first 5 minutes of hearing her story. The house situation is straightforward, Jennifer said, pulling up property records on her screen. Oregon is an equitable distribution state, and you can prove your father's inheritance paid the down payment. Kevin putting only his name on the deed doesn't change that it's marital property. We'll get you half at minimum, possibly more given the circumstances. What about the embezzlement? I asked. Jennifer's expression shifted from professional to predatory. That's where this gets interesting. If you have evidence of financial crimes, we have leverage. But Margaret, Emily, this isn't just a divorce case anymore. We're talking about potentially reporting him to federal authorities. Are you prepared for what that means? Emily didn't hesitate. I spent 5 years being afraid of him. I'm done with fear. What do we need to do? We spent 3 hours going through everything. Jennifer took notes, made copies of Emily's evidence, and explained the process. First, we'd file for divorce with a restraining order. Then, with Jennifer's help, we'd approach the FBI's white-collar crime division. The embezzlement evidence was solid. Kevin had been stupid enough to keep detailed records, probably because he never thought Emily was smart enough to understand them. He always treated me like I was dumb, Emily said quietly. But I have an accounting degree, too. I know exactly what those spreadsheets show. He stole almost $2 million over 3 years. Jennifer smiled grimly. Then let's make sure everyone else knows it too. We left the office at 5, with a plan and a timeline. The restraining order would be filed tomorrow morning. The divorce papers would be served by end of week. And Jennifer had already made calls to her contacts at the FBI. But Kevin wasn't sitting idle. My phone rang as we reached the parking garage. Unknown number, I answered anyway. Mrs. Patterson, this is Charles Whitmore. I'm Kevin's attorney. The voice was smooth, professional, threatening in its politeness. I understand there were some incidents yesterday. I'm calling to see if we can resolve this situation amicably, without involving courts or making public accusations that everyone might regret. So Kevin had already lawyered up. Faster than I'd expected. Mr. Whitmore, my daughter is handling her own affairs. You should direct all communication to her attorney, Jennifer Morrison. I gave him the number and hung up before he could respond. Emily was pale. He knows we're doing something. Of course he does. He probably had someone watching the house. I squeezed her hand. But knowing and stopping us are two different things. We're already ahead of him. That night, Emily stayed with me. We ordered Chinese food and sat in my living room, the same room where Kevin had tried to intimidate me 3 days ago. It felt like a lifetime. Mom, what if he tries to hurt us? Not just legally, but physically. Emily's voice was small. Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. We both froze. It was 9:30 at night. Through the window, I could see a car idling in my driveway, headlights still on. I approached the door carefully and looked through the peephole. Kevin stood there, alone, holding what looked like flowers. His face was a mask of contrition. I didn't call the police, I said through the door. But I will if you don't leave. Please, Margaret, I just want to talk to Emily, to apologize. I lost my temper, I said things I didn't mean. Can't we work this out like family? Emily appeared beside me, her face hard. She pulled out her phone and started recording through the window. You're trespassing, Kevin. Leave now, or I'm calling 911. His mask cracked. Just for a second, I saw rage flash across his face, quickly suppressed. Emily, baby, don't be like this. We can fix this. I love you. The police are already on their way, I lied. You have 60 seconds. He stood there for a long moment staring at the door. Then he dropped the flowers on my porch and walked back to his car. But he didn't drive away immediately. He sat there, engine running, for almost 10 minutes while we watched from the window. He's not going to just let this go, is he? Emily whispered. No, I said honestly. He's not. Which is why we need to hit him harder and faster than he expects. Tomorrow, we take the evidence to the FBI ourselves. No more waiting. Emily nodded, still filming the car in my driveway. The point of no return had just become crystal clear. Kevin wasn't going to back down, and neither were we. This was war now, whether we wanted it or not. The FBI field office in Portland was less dramatic than I'd imagined. Just another government building with security checkpoints and fluorescent lights. But the woman who met us in the third-floor conference room was exactly what we needed. Special Agent Rebecca Chen, white-collar crime division with 15 years of experience taking down financial criminals. Jennifer had called ahead. Agent Chen already had Emily's evidence spread across the table when we arrived. Mrs. Patterson, Miss Patterson, she said, shaking our hands. I've reviewed the preliminary materials your attorney sent over. If these documents are authentic, Kevin Patterson has committed multiple federal offenses. We're talking wire fraud, embezzlement, possibly money laundering. Emily placed Kevin's laptop on the table. Everything's on here. He kept meticulous records. I think he was planning to pin it on someone else if he ever got caught. Agent Chen spent 2 hours interviewing Emily, documenting everything. I watched my daughter transform as she spoke. No longer the frightened woman who'd thrown clothes out a window 3 days ago, but someone with purpose, someone with power. We'll need to move quickly, Chen said finally. Once he realizes you've gone to federal authorities, he might try to flee or destroy evidence. We'll execute a search warrant on his office tomorrow morning. I'll need you both to stay available for follow-up questions. We left the FBI office at 2 in the afternoon. I felt simultaneously exhausted and energized. We'd done it. We'd taken the first real step toward destroying Kevin's life the way he'd tried to destroy Emily's. That feeling lasted approximately 4 hours. At 6 p.m., Kevin's attorney called Jennifer. At 6:15, Jennifer called us. Her voice was tight with anger. Kevin's threatening to file criminal charges against Emily for theft of his computer and corporate documents. He's also threatening to sue you, Margaret, for alienation of affection and defamation. It's all bullshit, legally speaking, but he's trying to scare you. Will it work? I asked. Not even a little. But there's more. He's also filed an emergency motion claiming Emily is mentally unstable and asking the court to grant him access to your home, Margaret, to check on her welfare. He's trying to find out where she is." Emily grabbed my hand, her face white. "He's escalating," Jennifer continued. "The motion won't be granted. I'll make sure of that. But Margaret, you both need to be careful. Men like Kevin don't react well to losing control. The FBI investigation, the divorce, the restraining order, he's cornered now, and cornered people are dangerous. She was right to be concerned." At 9 that night, my home phone rang, then my cell, then Emily's phone, which she'd turned back on, all from blocked numbers. We didn't answer, but the messages started piling up. Kevin's voice on my voicemail was silk over steel. "Margaret, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I never meant to disrespect you. Let's meet tomorrow, just the three of us, and talk this through rationally. No lawyers, no drama, just family." The next message was to Emily. "Baby, they're filling your head with lies. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. Your mother is manipulating you. She's always been jealous of what we have. Don't let her destroy our marriage." The third message was darker. "You have no idea what you're starting. I have friends, resources. You think the FBI scares me? You think a restraining order matters? I will make your lives hell, both of you. This is your last chance to make this right." Emily was shaking. "Mom, he's threatening us. Shouldn't we?" "Absolutely not," I cut her off. "This is exactly what he wants. He's trying to scare us into backing down. We're not going to give him that satisfaction." But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't afraid. I was 63 years old, living alone. Emily was fragile, still recovering from years of abuse. Kevin was unpredictable, desperate, and apparently well-connected enough to think he could threaten federal investigations. Jennifer filed for an extension on the restraining order that night, citing the threatening messages. The judge granted it within hours. Kevin was ordered to stay 500 feet away from both of us, with no contact whatsoever. Violation would mean immediate arrest. For 2 days, nothing happened. The silence was worse than the threats. Emily and I barely slept, jumping at every sound. We'd installed a security system in my house, cameras, alarms, everything. My neighbors, warned about the situation, kept watch. On the third day, Agent Chen called. "We executed the warrant this morning. Kevin's office has been searched, his accounts frozen. He's not under arrest yet, but it's coming. How are you both holding up?" "We're surviving," I said honestly. "Good, because this is going to get worse before it gets better. Men like Kevin don't go down quietly. Stay vigilant, stay together, and call me if anything feels off." After she hung up, I looked at Emily, who was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, staring at nothing. "Sweetheart, we need to take a few days to breathe. Just rest. Recover. We've done everything we can for now. Let the FBI do their job." She nodded slowly. "I keep waiting for him to show up, to break in, to do something." "I know, but we're prepared. The alarm system, the cameras, the restraining order with teeth. We've covered our bases. Now we need to stay strong and not let fear paralyze us." We spent those 3 days in careful routine. Morning walks in the neighborhood, always together. Meals prepared in my kitchen. Phone calls to Jennifer for updates. Emily started sleeping better, the dark circles under her eyes fading slightly. But both of us knew this was just the eye of the storm. Kevin was out there, plotting his next move. And when it came, we'd need to be ready. The letter arrived on a Friday morning, exactly 1 week after the FBI raid. Hand-delivered, not mailed. I found it tucked into my screen door while Emily was still asleep upstairs. The envelope was expensive. Cream-colored heavy stock. Inside was a single page of embossed stationery and a check for $50,000 made out to me. "Dear Margaret, I've had time to reflect on my behavior, and I'm deeply ashamed. My actions toward you and Emily were inexcusable. I'm seeking counseling and taking steps to become a better man. This check is a gesture of goodwill. I know I've caused you stress and worry. Please accept it as a token of my sincere apology. Perhaps we could meet for coffee next week and discuss a peaceful resolution that would benefit everyone, especially Emily. I never wanted things to escalate this way. I love your daughter, and I believe with professional help and time, we can rebuild what was broken. But I need your support to make that happen. A mother's blessing means everything. With deepest respect, Kevin. I read it twice, then placed it carefully back in the envelope. The handwriting was Kevin's. I recognized it from years of birthday cards. The tone was perfect, contrite, vulnerable, appealing to my protective instincts. He was good. I'd give him that. Emily found me at the kitchen table, staring at the letter. "What is it?" She sat down, reading over my shoulder. Her face hardened. "He's trying to buy you off?" "And manipulate me into convincing you to drop everything," I agreed. "It's clever. $50,000 is real money, and he's betting I'm scared enough or tired enough to take it." "Are you?" Emily asked quietly. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She'd gained back some weight in the past week. The haunted look in her eyes was fading. She'd started laughing again at small things, unexpected moments. The woman I'd raised was coming back. "Not even for $1 million, I said firmly. I took the letter and the check and photographed both, then forwarded them to Jennifer with a message. "Latest manipulation attempt. Documented for the record. We're not interested." Jennifer called within 10 minutes. Smart move not touching the check. Kevin's attorney called me this morning with a settlement offer. They're offering Emily the house, her car, and a cash payout if she signs an NDA and agrees not to cooperate further with the FBI investigation. "How much?" I asked, putting her on speaker so Emily could hear. $200,000. Emily laughed bitterly. "He stole $2 million, and he's offering me $200,000 to shut up. And an NDA so I can never tell anyone what he did?" "That's exactly what it is," Jennifer confirmed. "It's a desperate move. The FBI has everything they need without Emily's cooperation, but Kevin doesn't know that. He thinks if he can buy her silence, he can somehow make this go away." "Tell him no," Emily said firmly. "I don't want his money. I want justice." After Jennifer hung up, Emily and I sat in silence for a while. Then she said, "He's going to keep trying, isn't he? Different tactics, different approaches, until he finds something that works." "Probably," I admitted. "But we're not going to break." That afternoon, Patricia came over with 3 other women from the neighborhood, Karen, Linda, and Susan. They'd brought groceries, homemade casseroles, and most importantly, stories. "My sister went through something similar 15 years ago," Karen said, settling into my living room with tea. "Her husband drained their accounts and fled to Mexico. She thought her life was over. But she rebuilt, Emily. She's thriving now." Linda added, "The thing about men like Kevin is they rely on isolation. They cut you off from everyone who might help you see clearly. But you're not isolated anymore. You have your mother, your attorney, the FBI, and this entire neighborhood watching your back." Susan, who'd been married 40 years, spoke last. "When my daughter was in an abusive relationship, the hardest part was waiting. Waiting for him to make his next move, waiting for the legal system, waiting to feel safe again. But Emily, honey, you're doing everything right. You're documenting, you're protected, and you're not alone. We spent 3 hours together. These women I'd known for decades but never fully appreciated. They shared their experiences, their strategies, their strength. Emily cried at one point, not from sadness, but from relief. She'd been alone with Kevin for so long that she'd forgotten what community felt like. After they left, Emily said, "I almost fell for it, Mom. When I read that letter, part of me wondered if we were being too harsh. If maybe he really was sorry and deserved another chance. That's what he's counting on, I said. Abusers are often charming when they need to be. But charm doesn't erase 5 years of control and cruelty. And it definitely doesn't erase embezzlement. That night, I checked our security cameras before bed. Everything was quiet. But I noticed something. A car parked 3 houses down, headlights off, someone sitting in the driver's seat. Watching. I didn't mention it to Emily. She was finally sleeping through the night. But I called Jennifer and sent her the camera footage. He's having you surveilled, she said flatly. Or he's doing it himself. Either way, it's a restraining order violation. I'm sending this to the police and Agent Chen. Should we be worried? Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Honestly, yes, but not in the way you think. Kevin's not going to physically attack you. That's not his style. He's going to keep trying to find your weak points, keep poking until something gives. He's trying to outlast you, wear you down until you make a mistake or give up. Then he's going to be disappointed, I said coldly, because I've got nothing but time and determination. After we hung up, I sat in my dark living room watching the car through my window. Eventually, around 2 a.m., it drove away. But the message was clear. Kevin was watching, waiting, planning his next move. Let him watch, I thought. Let him see that we weren't breaking, that every attempt to manipulate or threaten us only made us more resolved. He'd underestimated us from the beginning, and he was still doing it. That would be his downfall. They came on a Sunday afternoon, 2 weeks after the letter. I say they because Kevin brought reinforcements. His mother, Patricia Whitmore, a woman I'd met exactly 3 times in 5 years, each interaction leaving me feeling like I'd been assessed and found wanting. Emily and I were in the garden when they pulled up. I saw the car first, Kevin's mother's silver Mercedes, and my stomach dropped. They were together, which meant strategy, coordination. Mom? Emily's voice was tight. She'd seen them too. Stay calm, I murmured. We have the restraining order. They can't come onto the property. But Patricia got out alone, carefully staying on the sidewalk. She was 70, impeccably dressed, carrying a basket of what looked like baked goods. The perfect image of a concerned grandmother. Margaret, dear, she called out, warm and friendly. I was hoping we could talk. Just for a moment, please. I walked to the fence, keeping Emily behind me. Patricia, Kevin's supposed to stay 500 feet away. That includes using you as a messenger. Her smile didn't waver. Oh, he's not here to violate anything. He's just waiting in the car. I came as a mother myself, one mother to another. Surely we can have a civilized conversation? Everything about this felt wrong, but refusing to talk might make us look unreasonable. Jennifer's words echoed. Document everything. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I'm recording this conversation for our protection, I said clearly. You can say whatever you came to say, but make it quick. Patricia's mask slipped for just a second, a flash of irritation, but she recovered smoothly. Of course, dear, I understand you're being cautious. I just wanted to extend an olive branch. Kevin has made mistakes, serious ones, but he's getting help. Therapy, anger management. He wants to make amends. He can make amends in divorce court, Emily said from behind me. Patricia's eyes shifted to her, and I saw calculation there. Emily, sweetheart, this is all so unnecessary. Whatever Kevin did, whatever he said, you're throwing away a marriage. And for what? To live with your mother like a child? You're 32 years old. There it was, the manipulation disguised as concern. I'm 32 and finally free, Emily shot back, and I'm done being treated like property. Patricia's expression hardened. Property? Darling, Kevin gave you everything. A beautiful home, financial security, a life most women would kill for, and you repaid him by stealing his personal property, running to federal agents with wild accusations. Wild accusations? I interrupted. The FBI found evidence of embezzlement. $2 million. That's not wild. That's criminal. Patricia's facade was cracking now, her voice rising. You've poisoned her against him. You never accepted Kevin, never gave him a fair chance. You've been waiting for an excuse to break them up, and you found one. Emily was happy before you got involved. I was miserable, Emily shouted. I was controlled, monitored, and isolated. And you knew. You knew what he was like because he learned it from you. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Patricia's face went white with rage, then red. You ungrateful little... She stopped herself, breathing hard. Fine. You want to destroy him? You want to ruin his life over some mistakes? Go ahead. But understand this. Kevin has resources. Friends in powerful places. People who owe him favors. And when he's done with both of you, you'll have nothing. The house? Gone. The money? Gone. Your reputations? Destroyed. He'll make sure everyone knows what a vindictive, mentally unstable woman you are, Emily. And Margaret. He'll make sure everyone knows you're a bitter old woman who couldn't let go of her daughter. I stepped forward, my voice ice cold. Is that a threat, Patricia? It's a promise, she said, her own mask completely gone now. This was the real woman, sharp, vicious, and every bit as controlling as her son. You have one last chance to settle this quietly. Drop the FBI cooperation, sign the divorce papers with the NDA, take the money, and walk away. Or Kevin will make sure you regret this for the rest of your lives. Get off my property, I said quietly, and tell your son that the answer is no. It will always be no. Patricia stared at us for a long moment, and I saw genuine fury in her eyes. Then she smiled. A terrible, cold smile. You'll regret this, Margaret. Both of you. She got back in the Mercedes where Kevin was waiting. Through the windshield, I could see him staring at us, his face expressionless. They drove away slowly, deliberately, like they wanted us to watch them leave. Emily was shaking beside me. I put my arm around her. Are you okay? I'm terrified, she admitted. Did you hear her? Kevin has powerful friends. What if they come after us? What if they find a way to make this go away and we end up with nothing? I looked at my daughter and saw the fear threatening to pull her back into the darkness she'd just escaped. I couldn't let that happen. Listen to me, I said firmly. Fear is what they want. Fear is how they control people. Yes, Kevin might have connections. Yes, this might get worse before it gets better. But Emily, we have the truth. We have evidence. We have the FBI on our side. And most importantly, we have each other, and we're not afraid to fight. I'm afraid, she whispered. Good, I said. Fear keeps us sharp. Fear keeps us careful, but fear also reminds us what we're fighting for. I'm afraid too, sweetheart. I'm 63 years old, and I just told a powerful man's family to go to hell. But you know what? That fear is making me more determined, not less. Because I'll be damned if I let them win. Emily took a deep breath and nodded. We send the recording to Jennifer? Immediately. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. Patricia's words echoing in my mind. Kevin had resources. Powerful friends. What did that mean? Could he really make the FBI investigation disappear? Could he destroy us financially or socially? But then I thought about Emily, sleeping peacefully down the hall for the first time in years. I thought about the woman she'd been when she married Kevin. Confident, strong, brilliant, and the broken shell she'd become. And I thought about Patricia's face when Emily stood up to her. The shock and rage when her manipulation failed. They'd tried money. They'd tried threats. They'd tried playing the victim. And we'd refused every single time. Kevin and his mother were used to people breaking, to fear working in their favor. They didn't know what to do with people who refused to be afraid. Let them be confused, I thought. Let them make mistakes because they're angry. We'd stay calm, stay smart, and stay ready. Because if they thought that visit would make us back down, they'd just made their first real miscalculation. And miscalculations in war are fatal. The call from Agent Chen came 3 days later. Her voice was tight with controlled excitement. "Margaret, we're making our move. Kevin's being arrested this morning at his office. The evidence is overwhelming. We have everything we need for multiple felony charges. But there's something else you should know." I put her on speaker so Emily could hear. "What is it?" "Kevin's been contacting witnesses, trying to intimidate people at his firm who might testify. That's witness tampering on top of everything else. And Margaret, he mentioned you specifically in a recorded phone call with his attorney, discussing how to neutralize the grandmother problem. His lawyer's language suggested legal action, but Kevin's was less subtle." Emily's hand found mine across the table. "Meaning what?" "Meaning Kevin's spiraling. The arrest warrant will be executed in 2 hours. I wanted to give you advance notice because there's a good chance he'll try to contact you one last time before we pick him up. Don't engage. Call me immediately if he does." We spent those 2 hours in tense silence, watching the clock. At precisely 10 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. I set it to speaker and started recording. "Margaret." Kevin's voice was different now. No charm, no manipulation, just cold fury. "I know you're listening, and I know the FBI is probably tracking this call. I don't care anymore." "Kevin, you're violating—" "Shut up and listen," he interrupted. "You think you've won? You think you've saved Emily? You've destroyed everything. My career, my reputation, my life. For what? Because I told you the truth about marriage? Because I wanted my wife to prioritize me over her interfering mother?" Emily leaned toward the phone. "You controlled me. You abused me. You stole millions of dollars. I gave you everything." His voice cracked, rage and desperation mixing. "A house, a life, stability, and you repaid me by stealing my personal property and running to the fucking FBI. You're weak, Emily. You've always been weak, and your mother made you weaker." I felt Emily flinch, and rage flooded through me. "Kevin, this call is being recorded and sent directly to Agent Chen. Everything you say will be used against you." He laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "You think I care? I'm being arrested today. My mother called me an hour ago, told me you recorded our conversation, that you're documenting everything like some paranoid—" He stopped, breathing hard. "You want to know the truth, Margaret? The real truth?" "I already know the truth," I said calmly. "You're an abuser and a criminal, and you're about to face the consequences of your actions." "You self-righteous bitch," he snarled. "You think you're protecting your daughter? You're ruining her life. She'll be tied up in legal proceedings for years. Everyone will know she was married to a criminal. Her reputation will be destroyed alongside mine. And for what? So you could feel important? So you could play the hero?" My voice remained steady, cold. "No, Kevin. So my daughter could be free. Something you never understood and never will." "Free?" He was shouting now, control completely gone. "She's not free. She's living with mommy, scared of her own shadow, financially dependent on a 60-year-old woman. I gave her independence, status, money." "You gave her a prison," I interrupted, "and then you made the mistake of telling me I had no say in my daughter's life. That was your first error. The second was thinking I'd be too old or too scared to fight back. And the third was underestimating exactly how far I'd go to protect my child." Silence on the line, then quieter, more menacing. This isn't over, Margaret. Even if I go to prison, I have friends. My mother has resources. We'll come after you both for years. Every penny you have, every reputation you've built. The FBI is at your office right now, Kevin, I said softly. You have about 3 minutes before they arrest you. I suggest you use that time to call your lawyer, not to threaten us. I heard something crash in the background. Then Kevin's voice, nearly breaking. She was mine! Mine! You had no right! The line went dead. Emily and I sat in silence for a moment. Then she started crying, not from fear, but from something else. Relief? Release? The end of something terrible? It's really over, she whispered. He's really going to jail. My phone buzzed. Text from Agent Chen. Subject in custody. Well done. We got a recording of that call from the tap on his phone. Witness intimidation and terroristic threatening. He just added 2 more charges. Call me when you're ready to talk. I showed Emily the message. She read it twice, then looked up at me with eyes that were finally, truly clear. He lost control completely, she said. Did you hear him? He couldn't even maintain the pretense anymore. He just fell apart. Because we didn't break, I said. He kept waiting for us to crack, to beg, to negotiate. And when we didn't, he had nothing left. Men like Kevin, they're only powerful when they can control the narrative, control people's fear. Once you refuse to be controlled, they have nothing. Emily's phone buzzed. Then mine. Then hers again. Messages from Jennifer, from Agent Chen, from Patricia's neighbors. News traveled fast. Kevin Patterson had been arrested at his office in front of his colleagues, charged with embezzlement, wire fraud, witness tampering, and violation of a restraining order. The local news picked it up by noon. Prominent accountant arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Kevin's photo, the one from his firm's website where he looked professional and trustworthy, was everywhere. That evening, we sat on my porch watching the sunset. Emily had that look on her face I remembered from her childhood. Peaceful, content, present. What happens now? She asked. Now? I smiled. Now, the legal system does its job. Kevin goes to trial. We testify if needed. And you start rebuilding your life. And him, Kevin? I thought about his voice on that final call. The rage, the desperation, the complete loss of control. Him? He's already lost, sweetheart. The arrest, the charges, the prison time, that's all just paperwork. He lost the moment he thought he could tell me how to treat my daughter and face no consequences. Emily leaned against my shoulder, and we watched the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere across town, Kevin was in a holding cell, his perfect life in ruins. And here we were, together, safe, and finally free. The trial took 8 months to reach court, but when it did, the prosecution's case was ironclad. I sat in the gallery with Emily every single day, watching Kevin's carefully constructed world collapse in real time. The evidence was devastating. Financial records showing systematic embezzlement over 4 years. Email trails proving he'd moved money through shell corporations. Testimony from colleagues who'd suspected but been too intimidated to report him. Kevin sat at the defense table trying to maintain composure, but I could see the cracks growing wider each day. His attorney tried everything, claimed Kevin had merely taken advantage of sloppy accounting practices, argued that Emily had misunderstood complex financial transactions, even suggested this was a bitter ex-wife seeking revenge. But then came Emily's testimony. I watched my daughter walk to the stand, head high, voice steady, navy suit, composed, nothing like the frightened woman who'd thrown Kevin's clothes out a window 9 months ago. The prosecutor led her through her story methodically. The isolation, the control, the monitoring, the bruises she'd photographed, the fear that had consumed her daily life. "And when did you first discover evidence of the embezzlement?" the prosecutor asked. 14 months ago, Emily said clearly. "I found spreadsheets on his laptop. I took screenshots because I knew something was wrong. But I was afraid if I reported him, he'd hurt me or make it look like I was involved." "Why didn't you go to the authorities then?" Emily's eyes found Kevin across the courtroom. "Because he'd convinced me that I was nothing without him, that no one would believe me, that I was too stupid to understand what I was seeing. It took my mother's intervention to show me I could fight back." Kevin's attorney tried to shake her on cross-examination. "Isn't it true you had the accounting degree and full access to these records? How do we know you weren't involved?" Emily smiled, cold and steady. "Because unlike your client, I have ethics. And unlike your client, I didn't steal $2 million and then try to control my spouse into silence." Several jurors nodded. The defense attorney quickly moved on. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, Kevin's face was gray. "On the count of wire fraud, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the count of embezzlement?" "Guilty." "On the count of witness tampering?" "Guilty." 11 counts, 11 guilty verdicts. Kevin sat motionless as they read each one. Sentencing came 2 months later. The judge was a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen everything. "Mr. Patterson, you had every advantage in life. And you chose to abuse all of it. You stole from your employer, you terrorized your wife, and you showed no remorse until you were caught. The pre-sentencing report shows you still blame others for your circumstances." She paused. "Kevin Patterson, I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You will pay full restitution to your former employer in the amount of $2,300,000. You will surrender all assets to satisfy this debt, and you are permanently barred from working in any financial capacity." 15 years. Emily grabbed my hand so hard I felt my bones creak. Additionally, the permanent restraining order protecting Emily Patterson and Margaret Patterson remains in effect. You are to have no contact with either woman directly or indirectly for the duration of your sentence and beyond. Kevin finally reacted, his face crumpling. "Your Honor, please—" "There is nothing more to say, Mr. Patterson. Bailiff, please remand the defendant into custody." They led him away in handcuffs. As he passed our row, his eyes met mine for just a moment. I saw defeat there, complete and total. And I felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just a quiet, cold certainty that justice had been served. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. "Ms. Patterson, how do you feel about the verdict?" Emily didn't hesitate. "I feel free. For 5 years, Kevin Patterson controlled my life through fear and manipulation. Today, the justice system proved that abuse has consequences. I want other women to know that you can fight back and you can win." "Mrs. Patterson, what would you say to your daughter?" I looked at Emily, standing tall beside me. I'd say I'm proud of her. She found the courage to leave, to speak up, and to see this through. That takes more strength than most people will ever need. In my car, Emily finally broke down, not with sadness, but with relief so profound it came out as tears. 15 years, Mom, 15 years. And probably more, once the civil suits are settled, I added. The firm is suing him, his business partners are distancing themselves, and the IRS has opened an investigation. Kevin Patterson's life as he knew it is over. Is it wrong that I'm glad? Emily asked quietly. No, I said firmly. It's not wrong to want justice. He deliberately hurt you, controlled you, and tried to destroy you when you fought back. 15 years is what he earned. That night, I found a letter on my kitchen table in Emily's handwriting. Mom, I don't have words for what you did for me. You fought for me when I was too broken to fight for myself. You showed me what real love looks like. Not control, but protection and empowerment. Kevin's in prison tonight because you refused to let him win. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the kind of mother you are. I love you. Emily. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my Bible next to Emily's baby photos and graduation announcement. Some victories are worth every risk, every sleepless night, every moment of fear. Kevin had thought he could control my daughter and intimidate me into silence. He'd learned too late that grandmothers who've survived 6 decades aren't easily frightened, and mothers protecting their children are the most dangerous opponents of all. 15 years. It was justice. And sometimes, justice is the only victory that matters. 2 years after Kevin's sentencing, Emily's life had transformed completely. She completed an MBA in financial forensics and became a peer counselor for abuse survivors. Her TEDx talk about financial abuse reached millions. She bought a cottage 3 blocks from me, started dating carefully, and eventually met David, a high school teacher with kind eyes who understood her past and respected her strength. Their wedding in her garden was beautiful. Emily walked down the aisle alone. Because I chose this for myself, Mom. I cried happy tears watching something broken rebuild into something more beautiful. Meanwhile, Kevin's world imploded entirely. His mother died. He couldn't attend the funeral. Civil suits seized every asset, retirement, investments, everything. He'd leave prison at 62 with nothing but a criminal record. In prison, he deteriorated badly. Psychiatric evaluations, disciplinary actions, repeated violations of our restraining order that added years to his sentence. 15 years became 17. He still blamed everyone but himself. On the 4th anniversary of that day, Emily and David announced they were expecting a girl. "We're naming her Margaret," Emily said. I thought about Kevin in his cell, 17 years stretching before him. Emily would be 52 when he got out, probably a grandmother herself, living a life so full that Kevin would be just a cautionary tale. Here's what I learned. Never ignore warning signs. Never accept someone controlling your child. Never believe age makes you powerless. And never underestimate a grandmother protecting her family. They say blood is thicker than water, but the full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." The bonds we choose matter more than the bonds we're born with. What would you do if someone told you your daughter should obey them, not you? Share your story in the comments. Subscribe if you believe in fighting for justice. Thank you for listening.